Hello again, YouTube, and welcome to Death by Foursquare Part 2. This is where it gets fun. So last time we compared some of the vintage series of releases and found that they were extremely similar. I gave the 2008 a tiny edge, but not even a difference in score. This one is where I start to test myself a little bit in multiple ways. Because first I have done the injustice of telling, and I'm not the only one, but I single myself out anyways, of telling people like, well, if you're going to buy a Foursquare, just stick to the vintage release, right? Just stick to this stuff. Can even see there's a little bit of glare, but hopefully you can see this is the 2008. It's very similar to the 2007, which is very similar to the 05. There was also no 06, which was just a Velier release. I don't think it was that, I'm sure it's all locked up in warehouses now. And so my thinking was, if you're going to buy Sagacity, at some point you're going to buy the vintage release anyway. And, this is they're all going to be kind of like this. So just keep buying this. That, I am responsible for kind of, continuing that line of thought that is out there. And yet I haven't actually spent any time on the stuff higher up in the range than the vintage releases. So for the purposes of this video, I wanted to kind of test myself to see, well, first of all, is there Foursquare out there that is different and interesting and that people should be paying more attention to because it is not like the vintage releases and it is better and, all that list of stuff. And also just because I haven't, spent any time with the upper echelons of the range. So this is, so my friend on the Reddits, Mike Hooker, sent me a whole bunch of different samples. And I've thrown my own 2008 into this as a competitor. And we're gonna try them all out. This, if you price out the full bottles of these things, this would be by far the most expensive video I've ever done. It's also going to be at least an hour long, I know, because it's six glasses of high proof rum. But we're gonna taste through these, see if I like any, see if I can identify what each is. That's kind of fun, and then we'll unveil them. So my wife was kind enough to pour these samples for me, and so I have a little list here. You can't really see that, where I've written the things, and she has written the numbers of the sample glasses, and I will untape at the end of all this to see what the numbers are. Anyway, so on to the samples. One of these, of course, is the standard vintage release, entirely ex-bourbon, 12 years old, and bottled at high proof, around 60%. This one is exactly dead on 60%. Pot and column blend. These are all pot and column blends. This one was released on April 2020, and it is the 2008. So that's one of these. And but we also have its kind of big brother. This is the Foursquare Nobiliary. This is also entirely ex-bourbon cask, but it was aged an extra 2 years and bottled a little bit stronger at 62% ABV. My wife corrected. I originally wrote 60 because I'm dumb. She corrected me. Thank you. So this is Nobiliary. So 2 years older, a little bit stronger. This was released a little bit earlier than the 2008, December 2019, I believe. So almost certainly all 2005 stock. Anyways, that's what this sample bottle looks like. And then we move on to a couple of fun ones, which are right in this group of three. So here's the thing. I was talking to Mike Hooker on the Reddits, and I was trying to shake him down for Foursquare samples in order to do something like this, and asked him to send him. I suggested 3 sherry-based Foursquares, and I told him to send him the one he liked, and he sent me all 3 of these. So we've got this is the most recent. the Foursquare Master Series #1. This was a total wine pick, very recent. I think this was just this past winter 2021. So this is a blend of, some of it is entirely ex-bourbon barrel again, but you're also getting some secondary maturation in sherry. So when Foursquare releases something that is a little bit ex-sherry, usually you're not getting a finish so much as, it's spending a couple of years in the sherry cask, right? I don't remember I think it was three casks, one entirely bourbon, the others had spent some portion of time in sherry, and all 12 years old. So figure this is probably also 2008 vintage, maybe 2007, somewhere in there. Also total wine exclusive. Apparently this is long off the shelves, but the point of this is just to test, what's good out there, what you should be looking at, the patterns you should be following if you want to step up your Foursquare game, and just to see, is there different stuff out there that they make. Then there's two other sherry matured ones. Let's start with the Hereditas. This was the Whiskey Exchange exclusive. This was earlier. This was around the turn of 2017. So it's probably the same. Actually, both of these have the same sets. This is the Foursquare Empery. This was a wider release, but these have very, very similar stats. Both 14 years old, so both released around the same time. So figure they're, 2002, 2003 stock. All of these matured in a mix of bourbon, all bourbon casks, and double maturation, 10 years in bourbon, 4 years in sherry. These were both bottled at 56% ABV, so a little bit less than the rest of this crowd, but still way more strong than a lot of the sort of entry-level Foursquares. I did consider throwing those in, especially the Détente, the port matured one, but let's run with what I had and not look back on my sample choice mistakes. All right, so that's the Hereditas and Empery. It'll be fun to see if these are different because the stats on them are so similar, on paper at least. And then I have a ringer. I have an odd one out. This is the Habitation Vellier release of Foursquare. This is entirely pot distillate. And it was not aged for 12 years or 14 years. This was aged for 2 years. And it was not aged in an ex-bourbon barrel. It was aged in ex-cognac casks. So French oak. So pot distillate, French oak. And it's also bottled at a very strong 64% ABV. All right, so that is the lineup. I am scared for my life right now, but let's get through this. So I'm probably gonna have to do a couple of times through these. I'll probably rearrange them based on sort of the similarities and the differences that I'm seeing. All right, but let's start. This is glass #1, a nice dark Foursquare-y color. Oh, this is gonna be tough. So it smells like Foursquare. So you're getting confectionery notes. Also getting traditional rummy notes, a little bit of a black licorice-y, olivey thing. But there's also a huge just gout of coal smoke coming out of this. No, more campfire smoke actually. But there's dirty campfire smoke with wet twigs and wet leaves and stuff in there. Lots of ground black pepper, freshly ground. Which makes me think maybe this is one of the sherry casks, but I don't want to jump the gun on that until I at least try the stuff. Tons and tons of tobacco. There's you're getting a mix of let's say Nicaraguan cigar smoke, but also some more fruity, aromatic, Virginia flake kinds of notes on this. On the palate. Sample #1 is, first of all, extremely strong. It is extremely delicious. Okay, so I could very well be wrong, and this is not sherry matured. But I would be remiss not to lean a little bit in that direction because it is giving a little bit of a sort of dried fruit character. There are some figs in this. There are some dates, a little bit of cherry. And then, spice cake, coffee cake, pound cake, olives, black pepper all over the place. It's really the pepperiness that makes me think maybe sherry cask, but I mean, well, actually, this is a good time to stop and talk about the slipperiness of sherry casks. Because it isn't just the fact that none of these are entirely sherry matured, right? That's tricky enough. You're blending bourbon maturation and sherry maturation. But even when you say sherry cask, like that doesn't. There's some equivocity there, like because there are different types of sherry. For one thing, a Manzanilla cask is not going to taste the same as a Pedro Jimenez cask. But even beyond that, I mean, you can season different kinds of casks with sherry, right? So if you're seasoning something that's American oak, you're going to get more American oak characteristics regardless of the sherry maturation. But if you're seasoning like Spanish oak, other European oaks, that's gonna deliver characters more like a cognac cask or more like what we would think of as French oak, like Lamazon oak, that kind of stuff. So even though what I'm saying is that there can be some overlap in this, and even the fact that I'm getting dried fruit in this does not necessarily mean sherry cask. I want to go through all of these before I sort of make my anything like preliminary judgments. Sample number 1 is very good. The fact that it is not blowing out my sinuses makes me wonder if it's bottled at slightly lower proof than some of these, but we'll come back to that. All right, sample number 2. Swirly, swirly, swirl. Okay, this is bringing a much more kind of rusty, toasted brown sugar kind of character. Much more, I don't know if you can tell. The color looks a little hair bit darker too. I don't know if you can tell. Sample 2 versus 1. Color is one of the things that can help on blind tastings. Not that you care that much if I'm getting these right or not. I hope you don't, at least. Because the point is to see, what are my reactions to this when I don't know what it is. Now, not if I can sort of trick an answer out of the data that I have. It feels like a more congested, constrained nose than number 1, which makes me think it's bottled a little bit stronger. Something about this reminds me of, honestly, sort of modern old bourbons, like I don't know, Elijah Craig. The old Elijah Craig 18 comes to mind. This is quite bark, but kind of pleasant, weirdly pleasant. Tree bark, but nice. But there's some rum notes in there. There's some black olives, little fennel going on. It smells old. This is old spirits kind of converge on one particular pattern, which is Christmas in a glass with lots of wood and bark, and this kind of is converging on that. This smells like an old spirit. On the palate, ooh. This is really big, which makes me think it's higher in alcohol, but also the impact of the wood is just a little bit more serious and aggressive than on the previous one. Tons and tons of like tannic, overstewed black tea, but kind of nice. Birch beer, root beer too, but heavy on the birch beer. Not a lot of sort of overt, funky pot distillate notes coming out of this one. They're just it's just all submerged in wood, and it feels like it's American. It's there's a lot. Hold on, before I say anything else, one more time. Yeah, very okay. So very cakey, very spicy, Christmassy, cinnamon sticks all day long, clove, and there's also but there's a hint of like a kirsch, kind of a dried cherry thing that you could mistake for sherry maturation, but I think, you know, I'll come back to this, but initially I'm thinking this is American oak maturation. Now that's tricky, right? Because some sherry casks are American oak. This really feels, I mean, this feels a lot like a modern bourbon. It's like a really good modern bourbon too. Like, you know, this we're approaching BTAC territory here. This is very much in that style. It's very staggy. It's very pappy-like in the way it sort of delivers its character. I like this. I like this a whole heck of a lot, and I'm eager to see what it does with a little bit of water, actually. All right, moving on to sample number 3. Okay, Foursquare again. This is the one. Okay, let me nose number 1 again. Yeah. Okay, back to. Okay, number 3 is the one that smells the most pot stilly funky so far. We'll come back to that in a bit, but and 2 is really all about the wood, and there's a little bit of a pruny, like a figgy kind of thing, like dates thing going on in 1 that is really not dominating, but sort of playing a larger role there. This it's really dominant on the Latakia notes, tobacco, and the lapsang notes. There's a more of a smoky character going on. Wood's still there. Wood's still very prominent. It's very sorry. I just had some quesadillas a little while ago to settle my stomach. We just filmed the first Foursquare one, and this is a lot of strong spirits. Very cakey, pound cake, some pineapple, fruit syrup, all day long. Like a little bit of IHOP syrup mix, but nice. Peppermint, not pepper, like cinnamon chewing gum on this nose. And a little hint of like a mint leaf, like a fresh mint leaf character to it too, like peppermint leaf actually. It's a very nice nose. It's a very balanced, complete nose. The oak is not having all of its say here. The rum is what's coming off the distillate is speaking up to on the palate. God, these are good. Okay, so the fruitiness is much more obvious here. It doesn't come across quite as aggressive and hot as number 2. I don't know if that's because of the alcohol or anything, but that's just my initial impression. I'm not getting sort of overt sherry notes, so this doesn't feel like it's sherry matured to me, but I'm not sure. Let me think. Very confected, very cakey. There's a little bit of a cherry note going on, but it's not even really cherry. It's more like, Virginia flake tobacco doing a dried fruit kind of cherry component. Tobacco again. Fennel. No, more licoricey than fennel. Black olive. Not too much, but it's definitely there. little hint of like an olive juice or even like a briny note. And then just some nice fruitiness. There's a little bit of a banana peel kind of thing going on, which I like. Okay, so far, if I were to guess, I would think that 2 and 3 might be the ones that don't have sherry maturation, but you know, this is just going by what I've had so far. I'm going to change my opinions, knowing what I know after I go through the next 3. All right, on to sample number 4. These are all very good, by the way. I think number 2 is actually winning it for me, even though it's a style that I know would turn off a lot of hardcore rum fans. Let me put it that way. Okay. On the nose with 4. Four is interesting. There's a couple of different. I mentioned a big red chewing gum before. This is bringing out the big red, but there's also a little bit of a fruity hint in here too, like a fruity bubble gum. It's a little more dusty as well. You're still getting those confected notes. Ground pepper as well. It feels, again, a little bit like number 2. It feels a little bit congested on the nose. It's a little bit aromatically having some trouble getting itself out, which makes me think maybe it's a little bit stronger as well. So that's a general pattern you see. Things that are bottled at higher strength tend to be a little bit more congested on the nose initially before you add water. Dusty. There's a little bit of a savory note in there, almost like I'm smelling beef bouillon cubes or something, which is interesting. Kind of leafy, kind of like I don't know, like a wet, forest leaves kind of thing coming through. And along with that, like a tobacco note, which is a little bit strange. It smells like a traditional Balkan tobacco, like with the Orientals thrown in. So you're getting the Latakia and you're getting the Virginias, but you're also getting this slightly kind of funky citric notes in there. The green notes, a little bit the grassy notes. This might be, I mean, it could be like, I'm guessing, I'm not even tried all of these yet. I'm going to rearrange them. But this could be, something that is on the funkier side of sherry maturation. Sherry notes can get very interesting in there. A little bit of like a, not quite sulfur, just edging into the sulfur a little bit. On the palate, ooh, yeah, this is sherry matured. I would put $20 down on this being sherry matured. It just, okay, so I'm getting the little bit of struck match note, but I'm also getting, there's a sort of Aberlour Abunah character going on here, which is, not subtle. It's good though. Hold on, one more try. Yeah. Fruity bubblegummy thing, cinnamony bubblegummy thing. The Foursquare is bringing its tobacco game. It's also its cake game. But then there's this, funky like cough syrup thing going on and the struck match thing going on. And that kind of weird, half rotting leaf thing going on. It's fun. Right now, it feels a hair bit off balance. Like that dusty, struck match thing is throwing it off just a hair, just a little bit. But it's certainly not ruining. It's probably losing the battle so far in these first 4, but not by much. I mean, this is still a very, very good glass of rum. All right, moving on. I also think maybe it's still bottled at slightly higher strength than maybe number 1 was, but I'm not sure. It comes across just a hair bit hotter. All right. Oh, Jesus, this one's fun there. Oh, and it's lighter. Look at the color. That is way lighter than all the rest of these. Okay, this is okay, just in the color. I would guess this is the Velier. By the way, the Velier should stand out like a sore thumb. I mean, if I do not get the pot distilled cognac cask aged one, like I am failing as a taster, and you can just stop watching my videos. Totally different. On the nose, number 5. Completely. I mean, just we are in another. Like this smell. This honestly smells like a really stonking big, VSOP cognac. Honestly, is my first impression. It's sort of punching me in the face with, dried raisins and a little bit of a caramel note, like a toffee note. And it's very peppery. It's very dusty. It's to the point where I'm not even getting that much of a rummy character. If you hand this to me and told me it was cognac, I would totally believe you. At least initially. No. I'm getting I'm getting a little bit of the Foursquare tobacco fruitiness thing. A little bit of the leafiness is creeping through. More yeah, like a red stoved tobacco, Virginia tobacco this time instead of just the flaky stuff. It's an interesting nose. I can tell it's a little bit. Well, first of all, it's very different from the others. It also smells younger. It smells a little bit more spirity, and has maybe some of the congestion problems from before. So all of this is really pointing to the pot distilled one. But we shall see on the palate. Holy moly. Okay. First of all, it's good. Young. Sort of everything is happening at the front except for this, just gout of like different smokes. There's like hookah smoke mixed with coal smoke, invading the back of my mouth. But everything else is kind of happening towards the front. It's very raisiny. There's some prunes in there too. A little bit of the fig date thing from some of the others. Oh, and it's very peppery. Just cover all of that in black pepper. And there's a little bit of wait. Okay, this is rummy. There's a little bit of a brine character coming through, and a little bit of an olive character coming through, and a little bit of a gigantic pile of fennel actually in there too. It's just that the raisiny dried fruit characteristics are kind of ruling this so hard. That's my phone. Sorry, had to be interrupted in the middle of this at some point. This is fascinating because it's very, very young cognac-y, but at the same time, those rum notes just kind of elevate the experience and make it more interesting and unique. This is very special. I don't know if it's going to beat the rest of this lineup. In fact, I think it probably won't when I'm comparing them in context, but this is super fun. And a very different Foursquare. So we've already found one. See, this is great. All right, moving on to sample number 6. Smells like Foursquare. This in a lot of ways, this reminds me of number 2. Congested, but bringing a lot of kind of rusty, toasted brown sugar kind of oaky characteristics. A little leafy too. Interesting. Like dried leaves. A little kind of but the IHOP syrup thing from what is it, number 3, I guess. That's kind of creeping into the tobacco notes. The full Virginia flake is in play here. And on the palate, Ooh, dang, that's very good. Also comes across a little bit hot on the hotter side than some of these others. Well, they're all super duper strong, right? Not as hot as number 5, but definitely hotter than some of these others. A little bit sweeter too. Comes across as sort of more overtly sweet than a bunch of these. Yeah, there's a little bit of a fruit roll up aspect going on here, like it's like an oaky fruit roll up, like cane juice, a little I'm sorry, cane syrup, not cane juice, going on. And then you got those traditional rummy notes, the anise, licorice, you know, it's kind of the tobacco stuff, right? All the stuff I've already been talking about. It is more leafy and smoky and peppery, which makes me think this might also be sherry matured. But again, I have to go back to these in context, right? Very good. In some ways, this reminds me of number 2, but it also at the same time feels a little bit flatter than number 2 did. Number 2 was bringing it pretty hard. This is actually more concentrated towards the front of my mouth, which is interesting. Huh. I wonder if this is younger, but it just has more wood creeping in, or more wood stuffed into it. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of reshuffle these according to how I think they sort of belong together. Let's do... actually, I'm going to put this way on the end. Number 2. It's kind of... No, wait. I don't know if any of this makes sense. No, wait. 1. And then... All right. This is kind of my initial maybe grouping, if I can put it that way. You know, number 5 is kind of off in its own universe. If this is not the pot distilled cognac aged 2-year-old, like, you know, I'm resigning my commission. This is just, you know, totally off on its own. I'll go back to it in a second. The rest of these, I mean, these 2, number 1 and number 4, came across as more overtly sherried. Let me try these one more time. 4 in particular. Well, now I'm not sure about myself. All right, now I'm going to try 1 and 6 next to each other, because this is important. Okay, 6 actually feels weaker or less nippy on the palate than 1 did. Let me try one more time. Okay, I'm gonna go back to 4, which this is the one that had a little bit of a struck match component. Okay. And these 2, number 3 and number 2, struck me as having, you know, the least sherry characteristics, but I'm going to, at least on the first go round. But I could be wrong. I'm going to change my views. Let's try 3. 3 just kind of comes across like vintage Foursquare. Or at least my idea of vintage Foursquare, which could be totally wrong. So this may shock me, and you can laugh at me as this turns out to be like, I don't know, one of the sherry matured ones, or it'll probably be the pot distillate one. 2 is its own little beast. Oh God. 2 is really nice. But in a very, sellable commercial style, I'm going through water like crazy. These are such big, big rums. You'll notice I brought my big water glass this time because I knew that I would need this much water. Yeah, 2 really does comes across to me as more bourbon barrel driven than these other 3, which make me think like these 3. Number 6, number 1, and number 4 might be the sherry matured ones. So I'm going to go through these one more time. Then I'm going to add water, try to give you some more notes. Yeah, number 6. Oh, it's nice. Number 6 is nice. Has kind of a nice, fruity, slightly leafy characteristic to it. Number 1, kind of rolling in that same category, but hotter than number 6 was. And number 4, this was the odd one out, remember? More on the kind of, not funky is the wrong word, this sort of sulfury, hell monster side of sherry maturation. I really think these are the sherry matured ones, but water's going to tell the tale. And so I'm going to give these some squirts, probably quite a bunch. All right, I'm putting squirts in number 3 now. Number 3 seems good to go. And now squirts in number 2. Number 2 has a ton of wood on it. Oh, but in a nice way. I don't hate it. All right, I'm going to add some water to number, what is this, number 6? Which, remember, I'm going to add a little bit less and then try it, because it seemed like it was a little less strong than these others. Now there's some more cough medicine coming out. Oh yeah, this is definitely, sherry maturation. We'll come back to it though. 1, 2, and number 1. I'll try it. I could use another half squirt. I'm sorry you're having to watch this. This is the boring part. If I had editing, I would cut this out and we would just. But then you would wonder if I had checked the answers, right? All right, and that is number 4, disposed of. Oh, number 4 is a lot of fun. Whatever it may be. It is such a fascinating ball of dirt and fruit and a little bit of deviled eggs. And then there's this number 5. Which I just want to try one more time before I add water to it. Not subtle at all. Not a lot of depth to it. I probably can't, in this lineup, it probably isn't, it might be the loser. But I kind of love this. Whatever this number 5 is. All right, let's add some water to it though. See how it behaves under pressure. And this is kind of, so, people debate adding water to spirits all the time, and they will continue to do so, and they should. For me, It's a way of putting pressure on a spirit and kind of just seeing, how's it going to react when you start, basically forcing all the stuff in solution to start coming out, really fast. Sometimes it brings out some bad things, and that's okay, because that tells you maybe there's some issues at work. Otherwise, it might bring out some good things. Some people behave really well under pressure, right? All right, so I'm going to run through these and see if I change my mind about any of them. So just a reminder, I think number 2 and number 3 are probably the bourbon matured ones. I'm guessing the 3. And so far, I'm guessing the 3 might be the vintage one, but I'm could be totally wrong. Right now, at this point, I have number 1, number 6, and number 4 as the sherry matured ones, as sherry matured batch, and number 5 as the oddball out, the cognac matured 2-year-old, and that's entirely pot distilled. Okay, back to number 3, sample number 3. Water brought out a little more smoke, but also a little bit more of a sugary characteristic. There's more cane syrup coming through now. A little more sweet tobacco, a little more Sam Gwith Balkan Flake. I talked about that in the other video. A little bit of a coffee note too, like a cold brew or something. Sample number 3 is very nice. I'm going to now taste it. I would be shocked if this was sherry maturation. There's not a lot of sherry notes coming through. But what it is an extremely nice rum. Oh God, that is good. Hold on, I should be writing down scores. Do I even have a pen? Whatever, I'll remember them. That's really good. Whatever number 3 is, if it's a reasonable bargain, buy it. I think it is pretty dang solid. And number 2, okay, number 2. Let me try that. Okay, before I talk about number 2, I'm going to have to try it on the palate. Okay. Where do I start? Okay, let me try this. I'm going to piss a lot of people off, but I'm going to put it like this. Not having tried these before, I have some suspicion that number 2 is going to win this. It seems like the classiest one of these so at this point in the tasting, but it's also the most bourbony, and that's a little bit annoying. I would love for the little pot distilled one to win this, but no, the one I'm actually most impressed with is actually reminding me. This reminds me of just a better version of what Buffalo Trace was doing with the Antique series 10 years ago. Yeah, there's a little bit of a minty component on the nose. And then dried cherry, wood spice, black tea leaves, like Darjeeling leaves. This opens up a hell of a lot with water. The rum, the distillate, is very quiet here. This is very much the wood show. But the wood is playing to win, man. White pepper, dust, a little hint of olive in there, a little hint of like a sea breeze thing. Coffee, again, Italian roasted coffee beans. And a lot of dried cherry on the palate. Layers and layers and layers and layers of oak. I would guess this is the Nobiliary. Okay, so to go through, I'm guessing number 3 is the vintage one, the 2008, and I'm guessing number 2 is the Nobiliary. I could be totally wrong. I leave it open to myself to revise that. But what I'm getting here is bourbon barrel maturation, hardcore style, to the point where what this is doing. Okay, let me do this. If you are a bourbon drinker, right, and you're watching, I don't know why you're watching this, first of all, but if you're watching this and you have like FOMO about never having tried George T. Stagg or, Pappy 15, Pappy 20, maybe not 20, 23. I was never into the 23. You need to get a bottle of this because this is doing what those were doing. But in my opinion, it's actually doing them with a little bit more poise and a little bit more of a depth to them. They're doing that thing where they're just layering American oak on top of itself until it actually becomes fruity and kind of Christmassy and more fruity and syrupy. And just watch, this is going to be the pot distillate, right? I mean, I'm going to fall on my face. Yeah, this is playing that game very, very well. I'm probably going to give, okay, so score-wise, I would give this an 89. I would give this like a 90, hold on. I might give it a 90 plus, hold on. I'm going to run through these one more time afterwards because this video is not long enough already. But yeah, I'm thinking like 90, so probably at least a 90 on this, maybe a 90 plus, but because it is so much cleaner. I mean, it's doing the BTAC thing, the Pappy thing, but it is doing it in such a cleaner style than those. It is not, smacking me in the face with wood. There's a nice, slightly herbaceous wintergreen thing in the finish, which I'm really enjoying, but I'm not chewing on bark right now. And I love that. If you are a hardcore Claren drinker, hardcore, give me like high ester Hamden, Long Pond kind of character, leave the room. This is not for you. But, for the bourbon drinkers who are looking for, bourbons that don't say bourbon because bourbon has gotten too expensive, you seriously need to go find number 2 and give it a shot. This is very good. All right, moving on to the ones that I think are sherry matured, but I could be wrong. Yeah, number 6 on the nose just suddenly with water turns into Aberlour Avena, which I like. I mean, yeah, you're getting cough syrup, you're getting, some, not really even figs anymore. It's more prunes, plums, some dried cherries, but it's mostly prunes all day. Apricot happening, black pepper, some English breakfast tea, stoved black Virginia tobacco. On the palate, really good sherry maturation in action. I mean, this is what it tastes like. Yeah, this is Aberlour at its best, Glendronach at its best. Even Bunnahabhain is kind of doing this character. Actually, no, Bunnahabhain might be the 12 and the 18 of those. Might be the closest point of comparison to this because there's a little bit of a maritime note in this. Yeah, so on the palate, it's really very peppery, very coal smoke, campfire smoke kind of thing. Ash, a little Assam leaves, English breakfast tea leaves, overstewed tea. But then, you got the fennel, a little black olive, and that slight maritime note, the slight briny character, which is reminding me that this is a rum. But, if you're getting tired of drinking sherried malts, and or at least you're getting tired of the prices and you want something a little bit different, this is a great play. I mean, give this a shot. whatever this is, sample number 6. Sorry, all of that was about sample number 6, if you're listening to this. I need to be better about that. All right, now we're returning to sample number 1 with a little bit of water. On the nose, sample number 1 smells very cinnamony, very big red chewing gummy. It smells like Christmas. A little clove, little cardamom in there as well. But then the tobacco notes. This is the one that might actually not be sherry matured, if any of these are. Especially now that I've added water. Well, I haven't tried number 4 yet. But then there's that leafy note, that intensely kind of... It's dried leaves. It's also like fresh leaves, like fresh, almost like a fresh, not quite fresh Christmas. It's almost like a, a Christmas tree on fire kind of note, like burning evergreen trees. But you're going to throw a little bit of extra, deciduous leafiness on that. It's kind of herbaceous, which is what makes me think it's maybe sherry matured, but not that heavily. On the palate, okay. Well, hang on. I'm going to switch number 1 with number 6, because number 1 is the one. If I'm getting any of these wrong, this set of 3 that I think are sherry matured, it's going to be number 1, I think. Fuck. This could actually be the 2008. It's kind of moving a little bit more in that direction now that I've added water. It's getting a little bit more lapsang-y. At least on the palate. God damn it. Okay. I don't know. Now I'm doubting myself. No, there is a little bit of that leafiness is there. Christmas time is definitely in the house. Black pepper is in the house. But it feels more. Well, hold on. Let me try number 3 again. Actually. I think I like number 1 a hair bit more than I like number 3, actually. What would I give this? They're super close in style. I still do think that maybe number 1 is one of the sherry matured ones, but it's very light on that. All right. Incidentally, I would give what do I give number 6? It's nice. Number 6 is nice. I would give number 6 probably an 89, that kind of territory. Number 1. 1 is interesting. I would probably give number 1 an 89 plus. It's kind of edging up there. All right. That's all. But 1 is, again, the one I think is sherry matured that I'm most likely to be wrong about, because it's showing the least overt sherry notes of any of this bunch of. But number 4, if this is suddenly calmed down and turned into a bourbon matured thing on me, I'm going to be shocked, because this was the one that was throwing sherry notes the heaviest. Nope. Still got that kind of slight struck match thing, the slight dusty quality. Oh, almost had an accident there. The smells a little metallic, like a rusty junkyard car or something. A little leafy, a little herbaceous, a little medicinal. Also smells a little bit like sherry whiskey, but more this time like. What are the more austere ones? out there, like oof, I don't know, like um, Mortlack or something on a bad day, but nice. Mortlack on a bad day, but nice. That's kind of what I'm getting on this. Again, the oak is kind of covering over the distillate here, but I don't mind. I mean, there's a little fennel, little olive, little maritime, but that's about it. On the palate, ooh, okay. Yeah, Mortlock fans, come on in. You would actually be into this. Oh, that's definitely sherry matured. I would be shocked if this was not sherry matured. And it's super good too, actually. Oh, I like that. Yeah, so it's very leafy, a little bit sulfury, heavy on the black pepper, heavy on, throw a little bit of dust in there as well. A little medicinally herbaceous, and a lot of black tea in there as well, and the tobacco notes. Isn't that same 89 plus territory? I might even go 90 on this. I like this a lot. You have to get over the sort of struck match thing, but if you're over that, this is a terrific bottle, or a terrific glass of rum. And so I'm gonna stick by my guns. I still think 1 and 6 and 4 are the sherry. Definitely 6 and 4 are the sherry matured ones, but we shall see. Number 5. This is the one I thought was the pot distilled 2-year-old that was aged in cognac. And on the palate, on the nose, with water, it really doesn't develop much, to be honest. And that's okay, because it didn't need to, because it was kind of fun as what it was. Yep, like raisins and toffee all day long. Kind of a funky, like a little bit of a like a fermenting rotting raisin thing is too. Like maybe your raisins got all wet and you kind of left them there and they started to rot a little bit. That's kind of coming through. Like it's a little bit, stale / rotty raisins, but nice. And then throw some licorice in there and a little bit of that fennel note. What is shocking, I was expecting, I mean, I kind of, if I'm 90% certain this is the pot distillate. And what I was expecting from this was more pot distillate character. And it's just not throwing this at me. It's throwing more of the raisiny notes, and there's even a floral characteristic now that I've added water. There's a lot of flowers coming out, along with the pepper and the raisins and that stuff. This is fun. I really like this. I'm not going to give it a super high score, but I really like this. Mm-hmm. Oh. Okay, I'm going to write down what I think these are. Yeah, I mean, this is so distinctive. And if this is what, Foursquare's pot distillate is like, first of all, I would say give it more time. Give it more time in the barrel. That's all this needs. It's just another 2 or 3 years of the same. Okay, so what did I say this was? I'm going to give this, I like this. It's a little bit simple. I'm going to give this an 85. No, but 86. 86. All right, what did I say about these? I said number 4 was like an 89. Number 1 was maybe a little bit higher than that. I can't remember. Let me try this one more time. I mean, all of these middle ones here, 1, 6, and 4, are kind of in that same 89-ish range, which is kind of confirming the, Foursquare is all the same stuff. No, I'm a step up on number 4. I'm going to give it a 90. All right. Jesus, I just finished number 1, basically. Okay, I am ready. So I'm going to try to rank these. So let's rearrange these things one more time. So I've given these my final scores. They are kind of pretty close together, actually. And let's unveil them. All right, what do we got here? So, wait, this is all wrong. Where did number 2 go? Sorry, I'm not coordinated enough to do this. 2, 6. Okay, I think this is right. All right, so, all right, let us unveil these. I'm going to pull aside my wife's blinding now. Let us see what we got. Oh no! Okay, I got some things wrong. All right, so in my last place with 86 points was the so I got this one right at least. This is the Habilitation Vellier 2013 pot still, 2-year-old and aged in cognac casks. 86 points. It just needs more time. Honestly, this is super duper fun, and if you're looking for a Foursquare that is very different, you can probably still find this somewhere. I remember seeing it at local Binny's not that long ago. So it's probably still out there. All right, number 3, which I apparently loved, or I liked. I thought it was the Foursquare 2008, and it was wrong. This is actually the Nobiliary. I gave this an 89 out of 100, which means I liked it a lot. But I also apparently don't like it any more than I like the standard 2008. Which was number 1. The standard 2008, which I gave 89 points. I thought this was pretty good. I also thought it was sherry matured, which is interesting. Or this was the one I was borderline on, wasn't it? Right? Was that right? Yeah. So now I'm really curious what number 2 was. If number 3 was, or wait, was what? I'm totally confused now, and I don't remember what I had where. In any case, number 1 was the Foursquare 2008, which I had tied with Nobiliary. I thought it was very good, 89 points. Taking a step up from that, I gave the number 6, 89 plus, and number 6 was apparently the Foursquare Hereditas. So this was the Whiskey Exchange exclusive sherry, partially sherry matured. And the number 4 which I gave a 90. So just a little bit higher than the Hereditas because it was that much more kind of leafy and difficult and kind of weird. That was actually the Foursquare Empery, which so I'm beginning to think that I really, really, really like sherried Foursquare. How about that? And then the number 2, the winner of this competition was the Master Series number 1 Total Wine pick. So you should all run out to Total Wine right now to see if they still have this. This is really okay. So I am honestly shocked because I was not getting any sherry on this at all. It's fruity. It does do this sort of dried cherry thing, but it is so much more sort of characteristic of what I expect from sort of long maturation in bourbon casks. And this is only like 12 years old. So number 2, I gave this 89. Wait, what did I give this? 90 plus. Sorry. All right. So I will put all this down below because I've had a few glasses of this stuff, and it is hard to speak at this point because my palate is so tired. All right, but the Vellier, one more time, 86 points. The Nobiliary and the 2008, both 89, very comparable. I like both very much. The number 6 and the number 4, or I'm sorry, the number 6 was 89 plus. The Hereditas was 89 plus. The Empery, which is the wider release actually. So I like the wider release more than I like the pick. Was 90. And I gave a 90 plus to the number 2, which is the Sherry Matured Master Series number 1. This is really good. If you're a bourbon fan, you should go out and seek out this partially sherry matured Foursquare. Gosh dang. And that's kind of all I got. Thanks for watching and suffering through all this with me. So I think what we've established is Foursquare does very well with sherry maturation. And I am very bad at guessing what things have been matured in sherry and what haven't. Anyhow, thanks so much for watching. I hope some of this was informative. And cheers, I guess. Death by Foursquare. Thanks so much.